Midnight air crystallized with each exhale. Selena Ward's breath formed delicate clouds that dissipated into the darkness, ephemeral ghosts vanishing against the starless sky. The city lights twinkled in the distance, a constellation of warmth and life she was no longer permitted to touch. Her exile had begun at sundown with the Elder Council's verdict, unanimous and without mercy. Selena's boots crunched through the frost-hardened mud at the city's edge, where abandoned warehouses stood like tombstones, marking civilization's boundary. The wind carried the distant hum of traffic, a reminder of the human world that continued, oblivious to the ancient societies that existed in their shadows. It also carried the scent of rust, stagnant water, and decay, the perfume of forgotten places. The cold didn't affect her as it would a human, but she felt it nonetheless, a psychological chill that penetrated deeper than bone. Her fingers traced the silver pendant at her throat, the clan emblem now a mockery of belonging. The metal felt unnaturally warm against her skin, the last enchantment of protection before they had cast her out. Selena's heightened senses caught the scurrying of rats beneath a collapsed loading dock, the drip of melting ice from a broken gutter, the distant wail of a police siren. Each sound mapped the desolation around her with painful precision. Her eyes, adapted to darkness centuries ago, picked out details invisible to mortals, the intricate patterns of frost on abandoned machinery, the subtle movement of nocturnal insects seeking shelter, the territorial markings of rival clans warning against trespass. She paused beside the skeletal remains of what had once been an industrial refrigeration unit. The irony wasn't lost on her. Cold outside, cold inside. Nowhere to hide from winter when winter lived in your veins. Her fingers, pale and elegant, trembled slightly as she adjusted the bundle strapped to her chest beneath her coat. The small weight of her infant daughter shifted, and Selena felt the flutter of a tiny heartbeat against her silent one. "We'll find somewhere, Arya," she whispered, her voice barely disturbing the night air. "Somewhere they won't find us." The child made no sound. She never did. Born without fangs, without the thirst, Arya was the reason for their exile. An abomination, the council had called her. A dilution of their bloodline. Proof that Selena had committed the unforgivable. She had loved a human, however briefly. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows like jagged teeth in a concrete skull. Selena approached cautiously, her senses stretching outward, tasting the air for threats. The entrance, a rusted door hanging precariously from one hinge, groaned as she pushed it open. The sound echoed through the cavernous space, disturbing decades of dust that danced in the faint moonlight filtering through the collapsed sections of roof. Inside, the temperature dropped further. Selena's footsteps echoed against concrete floors stained with chemical spills and time. The air tasted of metal and mildew, with undertones of something else, something that made her pause. Blood, old, but not ancient. Perhaps weeks, not centuries. Someone had died here, or at least bled significantly. Selena's muscles tensed, her body instinctively shifting into a defensive posture. She pressed Arya closer to her chest, one hand moving to shield the child's exposed neck. The warehouse suddenly felt less like shelter and more like a trap. Her eyes darted to each shadow, each corner where darkness gathered too thickly. "You're far from your territory, Ward." The voice came from above, masculine and cultured, with the subtle accent that marked those born before America existed. Selena spun, her back against a concrete pillar, eyes tracking upward to the metal catwalk that ran along the warehouse walls. A figure stood there, silhouetted against the moonlight, tall, impossibly still, with the predatory patience only the truly ancient possessed. "I have no territory," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "Not anymore." The figure moved, a blur of shadow that materialized 10 feet from her. Close enough to attack, far enough to react, a calculated distance. He wore a long coat that brushed his ankles, the fabric expensive and out of place in these ruins. His face remained in shadow, but Selina could feel the weight of his gaze. "The council's verdict?" he asked, though it wasn't really a question. Selina's hand instinctively tightened around Arya, who stirred but remained silent. "Unanimous exile, effective immediately." "And the child?" His voice softened almost imperceptibly. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken threats and possibilities. Dust motes danced in the shaft of moonlight separating them, and somewhere in the distance, a train whistle cut through the night. "Mine," Selina finally said, the single word carrying centuries of maternal defiance. The stranger took a step forward, and moonlight illuminated his features, sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of aged whiskey, and a mouth that looked as if it rarely smiled. Recognition hit Selina like a physical blow. Adrian Crest, not merely ancient, but original. One of the first blood, whose lineage predated written history. "You know who I am," he stated, watching her reaction with clinical interest. "Everyone knows who you are." Selina fought to keep her voice from trembling. Meeting an original was rare. Meeting one alone, in circumstances like these, was potentially fatal. Adrian circled her slowly, his movements fluid and deliberate. The air around him seemed to bend, as if reality itself acknowledged his power. Selina tracked him with her eyes, turning to keep him in view, her back never exposed. Arya remained mercifully quiet, though Selina could feel her daughter's heartbeat accelerating. "The child has no fangs," Adrian observed, stopping his predatory circuit. "I can hear her heart, human rhythm, human needs." Selina swallowed hard, tasting fear like copper on her tongue. "She's innocent." "Innocence has never been a defense in our world, Ward." His voice carried no malice, only the weight of millennia of witnessed brutality. "The Council fears what they don't understand. A vampire mother with a human child. It contradicts our most fundamental laws." The first obstacle materialized in Selina's mind. Survival through the night. Adrian represented power beyond her comprehension, and his intentions remained opaque. The warehouse suddenly felt like a cage, its exits too far, too exposed. Her muscles coiled, ready for flight, even knowing it was futile. "I'm not seeking asylum from the Council," Selina said carefully, measuring each word. "Just passing through unclaimed territory." Adrian's laugh was soft and devoid of humor. "There is no unclaimed territory, not anymore. Every inch of this city belongs to someone, whether they wear their allegiance openly or not." He gestured to the warehouse around them. "Even this forgotten place has an owner." "You?" Selina asked, though she already knew the answer. "For nearly a century." Adrian moved to a stack of abandoned crates, running his fingers along the weathered wood. "I collect forgotten places. They have a certain honesty about them." The second obstacle revealed itself. Territory. Even in exile, Selina couldn't escape the complex web of vampire politics. Every step would take her through someone's domain, and without clan protection, she and Arya were vulnerable to ancient laws of trespass. "I need to keep moving," Selina said, edging toward the door they'd entered through. "We won't trouble you further." Adrian moved faster than her eyes could track, suddenly blocking her path. This close, Selina could smell him. Old books, sandalwood, and beneath it all, the metallic tang of power, his presence pressed against her senses like a physical weight. "The night is deep, and you're carrying precious cargo," he said, his eyes flicking to the bundle against her chest. "Marshal Grayson has patrols in the sectors beyond this one. They're hunting for you specifically." Selena's breath caught. Grayson, the human authority who had formed an alliance with rival clans. A man who had built his career on capturing and studying their kind. If he found her with Arya— "How do you know that?" she demanded, fear sharpening her voice. "I know everything that happens in my territories," Adrian replied simply, "including the Council's decision to let Grayson handle their loose ends." Selena felt the world tilt beneath her. The Council had not merely exiled her, they had marked her for capture, for study, for whatever horrors Grayson inflicted on their kind in his laboratories. And Arya, with her unique biology, would be the prize specimen. "I need to get out of the city," Selena whispered, more to herself than to Adrian. "Tonight." The warehouse suddenly felt too exposed. Every broken window, every gap in the roof became a potential entry point for Grayson's teams. Selena's enhanced hearing strained for the sounds of approaching vehicles, for the telltale clicks of tactical radio communications. Her hand moved to her side where a silver dagger, her last possession from her clan days, rested in a concealed sheath. "You won't make it past the checkpoints," Adrian said, his tone matter-of-fact. "Not with the child. Grayson has thermal imaging, and while your signature is nearly invisible, hers burns bright as a star." Selena's mind raced through possibilities, each more desperate than the last. The weight of Arya against her chest became both comfort and crushing responsibility. The child stirred, tiny fingers clutching at Selena's shirt beneath the coat. A soft whimper, the first sound she'd made all night, escaped her lips. "Shh, little one," Selena soothed, her voice barely audible. Her legs trembled, centuries of strength suddenly insufficient for the task ahead. The last 48 hours without blood, without rest, without safety crashed upon her at once. Her vision blurred at the edges, darkness encroaching. Adrian watched her with unreadable eyes. "When did you last feed?" The question pierced through Selena's pride. "Before the trial. 2 days ago." "And you've been carrying the child since then. Running. Hiding." It wasn't a question, but an assessment. "Your strength is impressive, but finite." As if his words had broken the last of her reserves, Selena felt her knees buckle. She caught herself against a pillar, the rough concrete scraping her palm. The smell of her own blood, thin, weakened, rose to her nostrils. Arya whimpered again, sensing her mother's distress. Adrian moved forward, his hand extended but not touching her. "The Council has decreed your exile, but they've overstepped by involving Grayson. It violates our oldest compact." Selena looked up at him, confusion warring with suspicion. "Why would that matter to you? The originals rarely interfere in Council decisions." "Perhaps it's time we did." Adrian's voice carried a weight of decision, of wheels set in motion that had been still for centuries. "There are safe houses, places even Grayson doesn't know exist." The offer hung between them, dangerous and tempting. Selena's instincts screamed caution. Originals never offered help without price, and the price was always steep. Yet Arya's warmth against her chest, the tiny heartbeat that had become her whole world, demanded she consider every option. "What would you want in return?" Selena asked, her voice steady despite her weakening body. Adrian's eyes shifted, catching the moonlight in a way that reminded Selena he was not merely ancient, but other. Something that had walked the earth when humanity was young. "The child represents something unprecedented," a bridge between worlds that many thought impossible. Selina tensed, pulling Arya closer. She's not an experiment. No, Adrian agreed, his voice softening. She's the future. Perhaps the only future our kind has left. Before Selina could respond, her enhanced hearing caught it. The distant whine of specialized engines, the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades displacing air. Grayson's teams, closing in. Her time had run out. Adrian heard it too. His posture shifted subtly, predatory awareness replacing philosophical contemplation. He extended his hand again, this time with unmistakable urgency. Choose quickly, Selina Ward. Arya's life depends on what you do in the next 30 seconds. Selina looked from his outstretched hand to the warehouse door, calculating distances, probabilities, survival rates. The sound of engines grew louder. Arya stirred against her chest, innocent and unaware of how precariously her existence balanced on this moment. Selina met Adrian's ancient eyes, searching for deception, for hidden motives, for any reason to refuse. "If I go with you," she whispered, "what becomes of—" The warehouse doors burst open, flooding the space with artificial light and the scent of humans armed with silver and science. Adrian's hand remained extended, a lifeline in a rapidly collapsing world. The choice before Selina narrowed to a single, terrible question. What price would she pay for her daughter's survival? Selina lunged for Adrian's hand just as the first silver-tipped dart whistled through the air where she had stood. In one fluid motion, Adrian pulled her against his chest, Arya sandwiched safely between them. The world blurred. Selina's stomach lurched as Adrian's preternatural speed carried them through a service door she hadn't noticed before. The shouts of Grayson's men faded behind them, replaced by the hollow echo of their footsteps racing through a maintenance tunnel. "Hold her tight," Adrian murmured against Selina's ear, his voice barely audible over their movement. "Close your eyes if the speed disorients you." Selina buried her face in Arya's blanket instead, inhaling her daughter's scent, milk and innocence, to ground herself as Adrian navigated the labyrinthine passages beneath the city. The air grew colder, damper, heavy with the mineral smell of underground water and ancient stone. Her enhanced senses detected the subtle shift in air pressure as they descended deeper, away from the world above. "They're tracking us," she whispered, hearing the distant electronic ping of Grayson's equipment. Technology had made hiding increasingly difficult for their kind over the centuries. Adrian's pace didn't falter. Not for long. They emerged into a larger chamber where water flowed through ancient channels. Without breaking stride, Adrian stepped into the rushing current, pulling Selina with him. The icy water bit at her skin, but she kept Arya elevated against her chest, protecting her from the chill. The current carried them swiftly through the darkness, washing away any scent trail or electronic signature they might have left behind. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as they navigated the underground waterways. Selina lost track of their twists and turns, focusing only on keeping Arya warm and dry. Finally, Adrian guided them to a stone ledge and helped them out of the water. "We've crossed beneath the old city boundaries," he explained, wringing water from his coat. "Grayson's jurisdiction ends here, technically speaking, though I doubt legalities would stop him if he knew where to look." Selina shivered, not from cold, but from the narrowness of their escape. "How did you find me?" Adrian's eyes gleamed in the darkness. "I've been watching you for months, since the first rumors of a vampire who had somehow birthed a living child." He reached out, hesitated, then gently adjusted Arya's blanket where it had slipped. "I couldn't believe it was possible until I saw her myself." Selina tensed at his proximity to Arya. And now that you have, now I know that everything must change." He turned away, placing his palm against what appeared to be solid stone. "Our sanctuary lies ahead. Once we cross this threshold, you'll be under the protection of the Crest bloodline. No one enters without my permission or leaves without my knowledge." The stone wall rippled like water at his touch, revealing a passage bathed in soft amber light. "Is it a prison or a refuge?" Selina asked, still uncertain if she had made the right choice. Adrian's expression softened. "That, Selina Ward, will depend entirely on what you make of it." He gestured for her to precede him, and with Arya clutched protectively against her chest, Selina stepped through the threshold into her new reality. The sanctuary of the Crest bloodline unfolded before her like a forgotten dream. Carved directly into the bedrock beneath the city, the vast network of chambers and passages formed a subterranean world unto itself. The walls were lined with a luminescent mineral that cast a warm, golden glow throughout the space, eliminating the need for electric lights that might be detected from above. Elder Maeve Harlow was waiting for them in what appeared to be an entrance chamber. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe braid, her posture rigid with dignity despite her apparent age. Unlike most vampires Selina had encountered, Maeve made no effort to appear youthful, instead wearing her centuries with pride. "You've brought them," Maeve observed, her eyes immediately fixing on Arya. "The child lives." "As I told you she would," Adrian replied, placing a protective hand on Selina's shoulder. "Selina, this is Elder Maeve, our healer and keeper of the Crest histories." Selina inclined her head slightly, unwilling to show deference but acknowledging the introduction. "My daughter needs warmth and rest. We've been in the tunnels for hours." Maeve's expression remained impassive, but she nodded. "Follow me. We've prepared chambers for you both." As they moved deeper into the sanctuary, Selina observed other vampires watching from doorways and alcoves, their curious gazes following Arya with undisguised fascination. Some looked hopeful, others suspicious. A young female with copper-colored hair actually reached toward Arya as they passed, only to be pulled back by an older companion who whispered urgently in her ear. "They've never seen a vampire child before," Adrian explained quietly. "Many of them had given up hope of our kind ever producing offspring again." "She's not a spectacle," Selina muttered, shifting Arya to shield her from the stares. "No," Maeve agreed, surprising Selina with her hearing. "She is a miracle. There is a difference." The chambers Maeve led them to were unexpectedly comfortable. A sitting room with plush furniture, a bedroom with a large canopied bed, and a smaller adjoining room that had been hastily converted into a nursery. A cradle carved from dark wood stood in the center, draped with soft blankets. "This was prepared quickly," Selina observed, running her fingers along the cradle's edge. "We've had centuries to hope," Maeve replied simply. "The cradle has been waiting for nearly 200 years." The weight of that statement settled over Selina like a physical burden. What exactly did these people expect from her daughter? "You should rest," Adrian said, breaking the tension. "You're safe here. We can speak more when you've recovered from your journey." Selina wanted to argue that fleeing for one's life hardly constituted a journey, but exhaustion was settling into her bones. Arya needed to be fed and changed, and Selina herself needed time to process everything that had happened. "We will speak soon," she agreed, making it clear this was not a permanent acquiescence. Adrian nodded, understanding the unspoken message. "Of course. Maeve will show you where to find everything you need." He hesitated at the door. "Selina, thank you for trusting me." After they left, Selina attended to Arya's needs, grateful for the supplies that had been provided. Formula specially formulated for Arya's unique physiology, soft clothing, even toys. The thoroughness of the preparations was both comforting and unsettling. How long had they been planning for her arrival? When Arya finally drifted to sleep in her new cradle, Selena allowed herself a moment to examine their surroundings more carefully. Despite being underground, the air was fresh and circulated naturally through some ingenious system. The furnishings were a mix of antiques and modern pieces, suggesting the sanctuary was continually updated and maintained. On a small writing desk, she found paper, pens, and several leather-bound books, histories of the Crest bloodline, she realized as she examined them. One volume fell open to a page with an illustration that made her breath catch. A child, depicted in faded ink, with features startlingly similar to Arya's. The text beside it was written in an ancient script Selena couldn't decipher, but the date at the bottom was clear. 1647. A soft knock interrupted her discovery. Selena quickly closed the book as Maeve entered, carrying a tray with a crystal decanter of dark red liquid. "You must feed," the elder said, placing the tray on a small table. "Your strength needs replenishing." Selena eyed the decanter warily. "What is it?" "Animal blood, enhanced with nutrients. We don't feed on humans here." Maeve poured a glass and offered it to her. "Adrian mentioned you had ethical concerns about feeding." Selena accepted the glass cautiously, sniffing its contents before taking a small sip. The taste was richer than she expected, almost pleasant. "How did he know that?" "He's been watching you for some time, as he said." Maeve settled into a chair, her movements graceful despite her apparent age. "Your methods of survival interested him greatly. How you managed to sustain yourself and your child without drawing attention." "Necessity breeds innovation," Selena replied dryly, taking another sip. The blood was already working its way through her system, restoring energy she hadn't realized she'd depleted. Maeve's gaze drifted to the sleeping Arya. "She truly has no fangs?" "No, nor any bloodthirst that I've detected." Selena set down her glass. "Which makes me wonder why the Crest bloodline is so interested in her." "Because she represents possibility," Maeve said simply. "For centuries our numbers have dwindled. No new vampires born, only those turned, and fewer of those survived the transition each generation. The bloodlines grow weaker. Some have already died out completely." "And you think Arya is the solution?" Selena asked skeptically. "I think she is part of it." Maeve leaned forward, her eyes intense. "How did you manage it, Selena? How did you carry and birth a living child when no vampire has done so in centuries?" Selena hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I don't know. It wasn't planned. I didn't even know it was possible until I felt her growing inside me." "And the father?" "Dead." The word came out sharper than Selena intended. "He was human. He didn't know what I was. When he found out..." She trailed off, the memory still raw. "He tried to kill me when I told him about the pregnancy. I defended myself. I didn't mean to." She stopped, unwilling to revisit that night. Maeve's expression softened slightly. "I see. And afterward?" "Afterward I ran. I've been running ever since." Selena glanced at Arya. "The rival clans found out somehow. Then Grayson and his hunters. Everyone wants her, either to study or to destroy. And now you're here," Maeve observed, "where Adrian Crest has promised you protection." "Yes." Selena met the elder's gaze directly. "But I still don't understand why. What does he want from us?" Maeve stood, smoothing her long skirt. "That is for him to explain. Rest now. You're safe for the moment, and that's more than you had yesterday." She paused at the door. "One more thing, Selena. The book you were reading, It's one of our most precious artifacts. The child in that illustration was the last vampire born to our kind, until Arya. After Maeve left, Selena returned to the book, studying the illustration more carefully. The child had died young, according to the notes she could decipher. A failed hope from centuries past. Was that Arya's destiny as well? To be a momentary flicker of possibility before the inevitable extinction of their kind? She closed the book and went to stand over Arya's cradle, watching the gentle rise and fall of her daughter's chest. No, she decided fiercely. Arya would have a different fate. Whatever it took, whatever she had to do, Selena would ensure her daughter survived. Even if it meant trusting Adrian Crest and his ancient bloodline. Days stretched into weeks as Selena and Arya settled into life within the sanctuary. The rhythm of their existence took on a strange normalcy, feeding times, sleep cycles, and increasingly, social interactions with the other residents. The Crest bloodline, Selena learned, consisted of only 27 vampires, a mere fraction of their former numbers. Each had a role, a purpose within their hidden society. Adrian himself remained something of an enigma, present yet distant. He visited daily, bringing books for Selena and tiny handcrafted toys for Arya. He answered questions about the sanctuary's operations and history, but deflected personal inquiries with practiced ease. His interest in Arya was obvious. He watched her with a mixture of wonder and calculation that kept Selena's maternal instincts on high alert. It was during the third week that Selena finally confronted him, catching him alone in the sanctuary's vast library. "You're avoiding telling me something," she said without preamble, closing the heavy door behind her. "Something about Arya, about why you really brought us here." Adrian looked up from the ancient text he'd been studying, his expression unreadable. "I brought you here to protect you both from Grayson and the rival clans. That much is true. But not the whole truth." Selena moved closer, noting how he subtly shifted to maintain distance between them. "Maeve showed me the records. There have been attempts before. Vampires trying to produce offspring. All failed. Yes. Except mine." She crossed her arms. "Why?" Adrian closed his book carefully. "That's what we're trying to determine. Maeve has been analyzing the blood samples you provided." "Don't," Selena cut him off. "Don't pretend this is just scientific curiosity. You knew about Arya before you ever saw her. You were looking for her specifically." A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Adrian sighed, the sound unnaturally human for one so ancient. "There was a prophecy," he said quietly. "Recorded by the first of our kind, long before I was born. It spoke of a time when our numbers would dwindle to near extinction, when the human world would develop weapons capable of hunting us to the last. And it spoke of a child, born, not made, who would carry within her the key to our survival." Selena felt a chill run through her. "You think Arya is this child?" "I know she is." Adrian's certainty was absolute. The prophecy was specific. A child born to a mother who walks in both worlds, with a father of pure human blood. A child without the thirst, but with the strength. A bridge between species. That's why the rival clans want her, Selena realized. They know about this prophecy too. Adrian nodded. Some believe she will lead to their salvation. Others fear she will bring about their final destruction. The prophecy is ambiguous on certain points. And Grayson? The hunters. They know only that something unprecedented has occurred. A vampire birth. That alone is enough to make them want to capture and study her. Adrian's expression darkened. Or eliminate what they see as a new threat. Selena paced the length of the library, processing this information. So I'm just... What? The vessel? The mother who walks in both worlds? What does that even mean? It means you're unique, Selina. Adrian rose, approaching her cautiously. Most turned vampires lose their connection to humanity within decades. They forget how to empathize, how to exist in that world except as predators or observers. But you maintained human connections, human ethics. You found ways to feed without killing. You worked among them, lived among them. Out of necessity, she argued, not some mystical destiny. Perhaps necessity and destiny are not as separate as you believe. He stopped just short of touching her. The prophecy doesn't just speak of the child. It speaks of the mother as guide and protector. Without you, Arya cannot fulfill whatever purpose she's meant for. Selina felt the weight of his words pressing down on her. I never asked for this, any of it. Few of us ask for the roles history assigns us. His voice softened. But here we are nonetheless. Before she could respond, the library door opened and Maeve entered, her expression grave. Adrian, you're needed. Our sentries have detected movement in the upper tunnels. Grayson's people have found one of the old access points. The peaceful routine of the sanctuary shattered in an instant. Adrian's posture shifted. The contemplative scholar replaced by the predator, the leader. How many? A small team, 4, perhaps 5. They're proceeding cautiously, using the old mining maps. They won't find us with those, Adrian said, already moving toward the door. Those tunnels were collapsed decades ago, but we can't risk them stumbling upon the newer passages. What do you need me to do? Selina asked, surprising herself with the offer. Adrian studied her for a moment. Stay with Arya. If they somehow breach our defenses, Maeve will take you both to the emergency exit. He hesitated, then added, I won't let them get that far. After he left, Selina returned to her chambers, finding Arya awake and babbling happily in her cradle. She lifted her daughter, holding her close, inhaling her sweet scent. It seems we've traded one kind of danger for another, little one, she murmured. But at least here we have allies. The word caught her by surprise. Allies. Not quite friends, not yet family, but something more than mere protectors. In the weeks they'd spent in the sanctuary, Selina had begun to form connections with its inhabitants. Cautious friendships with some, respectful distances with others. The copper-haired young vampire, Ilara, had become something of an assistant, helping with Arya and bringing news from the outside world. Even Maeve, initially so formal and reserved, had shown unexpected warmth, sharing stories of the Crest bloodline's history during the quiet hours when Arya slept. It was strange to realize she had begun to build a life here, underground, hidden from the world she'd once navigated so carefully. Hours passed with no word from Adrian. Selina paced their chambers, Arya in her arms, listening for any sound that might indicate danger. When the door finally opened, she nearly collapsed with relief at the sight of Adrian, unharmed but grim-faced. They're gone, he reported. We redirected them to a section of tunnels that circles back to the surface. They'll emerge believing they've explored a dead end. This time, Selina said. But they'll be back, won't they? Eventually. Adrian crossed to where she stood, gently brushing a finger across Arya's cheek. The baby gurgled and grabbed for his hand, a gesture of trust that made Selina's heart constrict. Grayson is nothing if not persistent, but we've survived his kind for centuries. This feels different, Selina admitted. The way he tracked us, the technology he's using, it's more sophisticated than anything I've encountered before. Adrian's expression confirmed her fears. The balance is shifting. Humans have always outnumbered us, but now their weapons, their science, they're closing the advantages we once held. And that's why you need Arya, Selena said quietly. Because whatever she is, whatever she might become, you believe she can change that balance back in your favor. In our favor, he corrected gently. She is one of us, Selena. As are you now. The words hung between them, an offering and a challenge. Before Selena could respond, a commotion erupted in the corridor outside. Raised voices, hurried footsteps. Adrian tensed, positioning himself between Selena and the door just as it burst open. Ilara stumbled in, her copper hair wild, her eyes wide with panic. Adrian! The Eastern Chambers! They've been breached! It's not Grayson. It's the Nightshade clan. Adrian's expression hardened. How many? At least a dozen. They came through the water tunnels, using some kind of submersible technology. They're led by Vega himself. The name sent a chill through Selena. Vega, leader of the Nightshade clan, was notorious even among vampires. Ruthless, ancient, and possessed of abilities that bordered on mythical. If he had come personally. He's here for Arya, she whispered, clutching her daughter tighter. Adrian nodded once, his decision made. Ilara, take them to the sanctuary heart. Maeve is already there with the others. I'll hold them off and join you when I can. Adrian, Selena began, but he cut her off with a gesture. There's no time to argue. Vega has wanted me dead for centuries. He wants Arya as a means to power. He cannot have either. His eyes locked with hers, intense and urgent. Go with Ilara. Protect our future. Our future. The phrase echoed in Selena's mind as Ilara pulled her toward a concealed door at the back of the chambers. She cast one last glance at Adrian, standing tall and terrible in his ancient power, preparing to face an enemy she could barely comprehend. Then they were moving through narrow passages she hadn't known existed, descending deeper into the earth. Arya clutched against her chest. Ilara led the way, her movements swift and sure. The sanctuary heart is the oldest part of our domain, she explained as they hurried downward. It's protected by barriers both physical and mystical. Vega won't be able to breach it easily, even with his abilities. What does he want with Arya? Selena asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. Ilara's pace didn't slow. The same thing all the rival clans want, control of the prophecy, control of the future. She glanced back, her expression grim. Vega believes that drinking the blood of a vampire child will grant him powers beyond imagining. He's been seeking such a child for centuries. Selena's stomach turned at the thought. He's wrong. Arya doesn't even have vampire blood, not fully. She's something in between, which might make her even more valuable to him, Ilara replied darkly. They reached a massive door carved from a single slab of stone, covered in symbols Selena didn't recognize. Ilara pressed her palm to its center, whispering words in an ancient language. The door swung open silently, revealing a vast circular chamber bathed in the same golden light that illuminated the rest of the sanctuary. Inside, the remaining members of the Crest bloodline had gathered. Elders, warriors, scholars, all looking toward the entrance with expressions ranging from relief to fear. Maeve stood at the center, beside what appeared to be a natural spring bubbling up from the stone floor. Come, the elder called, gesturing Selena forward. Quickly, child. As Selena approached, she realized the spring wasn't water at all, but a shimmering, viscous substance that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. It pulsed with a rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat. What is that? She asked, keeping Arya turned away from it instinctively. The lifeblood of our sanctuary, Maeve replied. The source of our protection and power. It is connected to Adrian, in ways even I don't fully understand. Before Selena could ask more questions, a distant boom shook the chamber, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. The assembled vampires tensed, several moving into defensive positions around the entrance. "Vega has engaged Adrian," Maeve said grimly. "The battle has begun." Selena clutched Arya tighter, feeling utterly helpless. She had spent years surviving on her own, relying on no one, trusting nothing but her own instincts. Now she stood in the heart of an ancient vampire stronghold, surrounded by creatures she barely understood, waiting for the outcome of a battle she couldn't influence. Another boom, closer this time. The shimmering pool rippled violently, its rhythm faltering. "Adrian is weakening," Maeve whispered, her ancient face creased with worry. "Vega must have brought more forces than we anticipated." Selena looked down at Arya, peaceful in her arms despite the chaos around them. Her daughter, this miraculous, impossible child who had somehow become the focal point of a war she knew nothing about. In that moment, something shifted within Selena. A decision crystallized, born of both maternal instinct and a deeper connection she was only beginning to acknowledge. What if there was a way to help him? She asked suddenly. To lend him strength? Maeve's eyes widened. There is, but it would require your willing participation. Your blood, freely given, combined with Arya's presence near the sanctuary heart. The connection between you three might be enough to amplify Adrian's power. "Three?" Selena questioned. "You, Arya, and Adrian," Maeve explained. "There is a bond forming between you, whether you've acknowledged it or not. The prophecy speaks of a trinity: child, mother, and protector." Selena looked around at the frightened faces of the Crest bloodline. These people who had taken her in, protected her, begun to accept her as one of their own. She thought of Adrian, fighting alone against an ancient enemy to buy them time. She thought of Grayson and his hunters, of the rival clans, of a world that would either exploit or destroy her daughter. "Tell me what to do," she said firmly. Maeve nodded, relief visible in her ancient eyes. "Bring Arya to the edge of the pool. I will need a few drops of your blood, freely given, not taken." Selena approached the shimmering substance, cradling Arya carefully. Maeve produced a small silver knife, its blade etched with the same symbols that adorned the chamber door. "3 drops," the elder instructed, "directly into the heart." Selena took the knife and, without hesitation, pricked her finger. She held it over the pool, watching as 3 drops of her dark blood fell into the shimmering substance. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pool began to pulse more strongly, its golden light taking on a reddish hue. The rhythm accelerated, growing louder until it filled the chamber like a drumbeat. Arya stirred in Selena's arms, her eyes opening wide. For the first time since her birth, they glowed with a faint golden light, the same light that emanated from the pool. She reached toward it with tiny fingers, babbling excitedly. The chamber shook again, but this time it felt different. Not an attack from outside, but a surge of power from within. The very air seemed to vibrate with energy, making Selena's skin tingle and her fangs extend involuntarily. "It's working," Maeve breathed, wonder in her voice. "The Trinity is connecting." In her mind's eye, Selena suddenly saw Adrian, not as she had left him, but as he was now, surrounded by enemies, his ancient power blazing around him like an aura. She felt his surprise as he sensed her presence, then his gratitude as the new energy flowed into him. With it came understanding, flashes of memory not her own, glimpses of centuries lived in shadow, of losses and victories, of a loneliness so profound it made her gasp. And then, abruptly, the connection broke. The pool settled back into its gentle rhythm, though the reddish tint remained. Arya's eyes returned to their normal color, and she yawned as if nothing extraordinary had happened. The chamber door swung open. Adrian stood there, his clothing torn, dark blood seeping from wounds that were already healing. Behind him, several of his warriors supported injured comrades. "Vega has retreated," he announced, his eyes finding Selina's immediately. "For now." A cheer went up from the assembled vampires, but Selina barely heard it. She was still processing what she had felt, what she had seen in that brief connection. The loneliness, the burden of centuries, the weight of leadership, and beneath it all, a desperate hope centered on Arya and on her. Adrian approached slowly, his gaze moving from Selina to Arya and back. "You helped me," he said quietly. "You could have let me fall." "You're protecting us," she replied simply. It seemed fair to return the favor. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Is that the only reason?" Before she could answer, one of the warriors at the door called out in alarm. "Adrian! The eastern tunnels! They're flooding with silver mist!" The brief moment of victory shattered. Adrian's expression hardened as he turned to face this new threat. "Grayson," he growled. "He must have followed Vega's people to our location." "Silver mist?" Selina asked, dread pooling in her stomach. "Aerosolized silver nitrate," Maeve explained grimly. "It burns vampire tissue on contact, a new weapon Grayson's team developed." "It's forcing us deeper," Adrian said, already issuing orders to seal the upper chambers. "They're trying to corner us." Selina looked down at Arya, then at the assembled crest vampires, injured, frightened, backed into their last sanctuary. In the span of a few hours, their safe haven had become a trap, and she had brought this upon them by coming here, by accepting their protection. The sound of distant hissing filled the chamber, silver mist seeping through cracks in the ancient stone, searching for vampire flesh to burn. Arya began to cry, a high, distressed wail that echoed off the walls. Whether from fear or something more instinctive, Selina couldn't tell. Adrian turned to her, his expression grim but determined. "Selina, there's an escape route below the sanctuary heart. It will take you to the surface, miles from here. Take Arya and go, now, before Grayson seals that exit too." "And leave you all here to die?" she asked incredulously. "To buy you time," he corrected. "The prophecy must be protected. Arya must survive." Selina looked around at the faces watching her. Maeve's ancient wisdom, Ilara's youthful fear, the warrior's grim resolve. These people, this place, in mere weeks, they had become more of a home than she'd known in years of running. The silver mist crept closer, tendrils of deadly fog seeping under the great door. One touched a young vampire's foot, and he screamed as his skin blackened and peeled away. The others pulled him back, but the message was clear. They were running out of time. Selina clutched Arya to her chest, her mind racing through possibilities, escape routes, sacrifices. The weight of choice pressed down on her once more, just as it had in that warehouse when Adrian first appeared. Only this time, the stakes were even higher. "There has to be another way," she whispered, looking from her daughter to Adrian, feeling the fragile connection between them stretching taut under the pressure of imminent separation. The hissing grew louder. Grayson's voice echoed through the stone, amplified by some technology. "Surrender the child, and the rest of you may live. This is your only warning." Selina's grip tightened around Arya as the silver mist crept closer, her daughter's warmth a stark contrast to the cold death seeping beneath the doors. The choice crystallized in her mind, not between escape and death, but between running again or finally standing her ground. "No," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. "I'm done running. Adrian's eyes widened. Selina, we fight together or not at all. She handed Arya to Maeve, whose ancient eyes showed a flicker of approval. The prophecy says she'll unite the bloodlines, but she can't do that if we're divided now. Selina approached the great door where the silver mist seeped through. She closed her eyes, feeling the ancient blood in her veins, the blood that had kept her alive through centuries of exile, the blood that connected her to Arya, to Adrian, to all of them. Grayson wants me to choose between my daughter and my people, she said, opening her eyes. I choose both. She sliced her palm with a fingernail and pressed it against the stone floor. Her blood spread outward in thin rivulets, meeting the silver mist. Where they touched, the mist hissed and recoiled. Blood magic, Maeve whispered. The oldest kind. Adrian was beside her in an instant, his own palm sliced, adding his blood to hers. The blood of the original clans has power they've forgotten, he said, his voice low and urgent. Together, we might have enough. One by one, the others joined. Maeve, the warriors, even young Alara. Their blood mingled on the stone floor, forming a barrier the silver mist couldn't cross. It's working, Alara breathed. Not for long, Adrian cautioned. We need to move now, together. Selina reclaimed Arya from Maeve's arms. What's the plan? We go up, Adrian said, pointing to the vaulted ceiling. There's an exit through the old bell tower. They won't expect that. And then? Selina asked. Adrian's eyes met hers. Then we end this, at the council. The ascent through the sanctuary was treacherous. The silver mist kept trying to find new entry points, and twice they had to change course when passages collapsed from Grayson's explosives. Selina felt Arya's heartbeat against her chest, steady and strong despite the chaos around them. They emerged into the cold night air through a forgotten passage behind the altar. Stars spread across the sky, indifferent to the battle below. From their vantage point, Selina could see Grayson's forces surrounding the sanctuary, human hunters alongside vampires from rival clans. They've united against us, she said bitterly. Fear makes strange bedfellows, Maeve replied. Humans fear what they don't understand, and the old clans fear change. Adrian surveyed the scene, his face illuminated by the fires below. We need to reach the council chambers before they realize we've escaped. Once there, we invoke the ancient right of audience. Even they can't deny that. And if they try? Selina asked. Then we show them why the Crest bloodline has survived for millennia, he said, his voice carrying an edge she'd rarely heard. They moved through the night like shadows, avoiding the main roads, using the old tunnels and passages that only the eldest among them remembered. Arya remained eerily quiet, as if sensing the need for silence. Once, when they had to hide from a patrol, Selina thought she saw her daughter's eyes flash with an unnatural awareness. The council chamber stood at the heart of the vampire district, a massive Gothic structure that predated the human city around it. During the day, humans saw only an abandoned cathedral. At night, it became the seat of vampire governance. They'll be in session, Adrian said as they approached. The attack on the sanctuary would have triggered an emergency meeting. Good, Selina replied. Let them all witness what happens next. The great doors of the council chamber were guarded by 4 vampires in ceremonial armor. They crossed their spears when they saw the approaching group. The council is in closed session, one announced. Adrian stepped forward. I invoke the right of original blood. You cannot deny me entry. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. One touched a communication device at his wrist, then nodded reluctantly. The original may enter. The others must wait. Where I go, they go, Adrian said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. The air around him seemed to darken, pressure building like before a storm. Or have you forgotten whose blood runs in your veins? The guard's resolve visibly wavered. Finally, the leader stepped aside. The council will not be pleased. The council has forgotten many things, Adrian replied. It's time they remembered. The doors swung open to reveal a circular chamber with tiered seating. 12 vampire elders sat in judgment, their faces cold and ancient. Below them, at the center of the chamber, stood Marshal Grayson, mid-speech. His words died when he saw them enter. Impossible, he breathed. Selina felt every eye in the room turn to her, to Arya. The weight of centuries of judgment pressed down on her shoulders. She had spent lifetimes avoiding this very moment, being seen, being judged. The council recognizes Adrian Crest, intoned the eldest member, a withered vampire whose age showed despite their kind's resistance to time. You interrupt grave proceedings. Grave indeed, Adrian replied, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. When the council sanctions the murder of its own kind. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Grayson stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. These are not our kind. This woman has been cast out. Her child is an abomination, proof of her betrayal. Selina felt rage building inside her. Before Adrian could respond, she stepped forward, Arya held protectively against her chest. My name is Selina Ward, she announced, her voice steady despite the fury in her heart. For 300 years, I have lived in exile because I questioned the old ways, because I believed our survival depended on change. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. Today proves I was right. You have no voice here, Exile, said one of the council members, a woman whose face Selina recognized from centuries past. You were judged and found wanting. Selina reached into her pocket and withdrew the sigil of her former clan, a small silver pendant she had kept all these years as a reminder of what she had lost. I kept this to remember where I came from, she said, holding it up for all to see. To remind myself of the family that abandoned me for speaking truth. With deliberate slowness, she dropped it to the floor. The metallic clang echoed through the silent chamber. I reject your judgment. I reject your shame. Grayson laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet room. You have nowhere else to go, Exile. No clan will have you or your offspring. Adrian stepped forward then, his presence filling the space. The Crest clan claims her, claims them both. The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembly. Even the council members stirred in their seats. You cannot, the eldest said, leaning forward. The bloodlines are mine to determine, Adrian cut in. Or have you forgotten that your own existence stems from my blood? Selina felt the shift in the room. Fear, respect, uncertainty. Adrian rarely wielded his status as an original, one of the first vampires from whom all others descended. But when he did, none could deny his authority. Grayson wasn't finished. He turned to the council, his voice rising. This child is dangerous. The prophecy clearly states, You speak of prophecies you don't understand. Maeve interrupted, stepping forward. Her ancient voice carried surprising strength. The child will unite the bloodlines, yes, but unity can come through peace as well as war. Lies, Grayson spat. He drew his weapon, a modified gun that Selina knew would be loaded with silver. If you won't protect our kind, I will. Everything happened at once. Grayson fired. Adrian moved with impossible speed, placing himself between the bullet and Selina, but the shot never reached either of them. Arya's tiny hand had extended from her blanket, and the silver bullet hung suspended in the air before her. Her eyes, normally so human, glowed with an inner light. The chamber fell silent. The bullet dropped harmlessly to the floor. "Impossible," someone whispered. Grayson raised his weapon again, his face contorted with fear and hatred. This time, Adrian didn't wait. He crossed the space between them in a blur, his hand closing around Grayson's throat. "Enough," Adrian said, his voice barely audible yet somehow filling the entire chamber. Selena watched as Adrian's control slipped just enough to reveal what lay beneath. Power older than any in the room could comprehend. The air around him darkened, reality itself seeming to bend. Grayson's eyes widened in terror as he glimpsed what few had ever seen and survived. "The council will hear us," Adrian said, releasing Grayson, who collapsed to his knees, gasping. "All of us." For the next hour, they spoke. Selena told of her years in exile, of the changes she had observed in human society, of the opportunities for coexistence that the old ways ignored. Maeve spoke of the ancient prophecies, their true meanings lost in centuries of misinterpretation. Adrian spoke of the future, a future where vampires could step out of shadows without fear. And through it all, Arya watched with those two knowing eyes, occasionally reaching out to touch her mother's face as if in reassurance. The council deliberated in whispers. Finally, the eldest spoke. "The council acknowledges the claim of the Crest bloodline," he said, each word clearly difficult for him. "Selena Ward and her child are recognized as members of that clan, with all rights and protections therein." His ancient eyes fixed on Arya. "As for the child's abilities, we will observe and wait." It wasn't everything, but it was enough. For now. Grayson was stripped of his authority, his alliance with the rival clans exposed as the power grab it had always been. The human hunters, without their vampire allies, retreated into the shadows. Their threat diminished, but not eliminated. As they left the council chamber, Selena felt lighter than she had in centuries. Adrian walked beside her, his hand occasionally brushing hers, a promise of conversations yet to come, of possibilities opening before them. "What happens now?" she asked as they stepped into the night air. "Now," Adrian said, looking down at Arya, who had finally fallen asleep. "We build something new." 3 months later, Selena stood on the balcony of the rebuilt sanctuary, watching the sun rise. Vampires couldn't walk in full daylight, but the first rays of dawn and the last light of dusk were safe enough, especially for one of her age and strength. The sanctuary had become a true refuge, not just for the Crest clan, but for any vampire seeking a different path. Young ones like Alara flourished here, learning both the old ways and new possibilities. Maeve had established a school of sorts, passing on knowledge that had nearly been lost. And Arya grew stronger every day. Her abilities manifested in small ways, objects moving when she focused on them, wounds healing faster than they should when she touched them. She still had no fangs, but it no longer seemed to matter. She was something new, something between worlds. Adrian joined Selena on the balcony, his presence familiar now in ways she was still getting used to. They had grown closer in these months, cautiously exploring what existed between them. Respect, attraction, and something deeper that neither was quite ready to name. "The council has ratified the new accords," he said. "It's official. No clan can exile a member without trial before the full council. No more summary judgments." "It's a start," Selena replied. She thought of all those like her, wandering alone, cut off from their kind. "We should find them. The other exiles." "We will," Adrian promised. "One by one, if necessary." Below them, The sanctuary was coming to life as night dwellers sought their rest, and the few daywalkers began their work. Voices called out in greeting. Laughter echoed in corridors that had once been silent. It was a sound Selina had never thought to hear again, the sound of belonging. Arya stirred in her crib nearby, making the soft, cooing sounds that always preceded her waking. Selina went to her, lifting her daughter into the gentle light of dawn. "Look," she whispered, pointing to the horizon where the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "That's your world out there. All of it." Arya reached out a tiny hand toward the light, her eyes reflecting the dawn. For a moment, just the briefest instant, Selina thought she saw the future in those eyes, a bridge between worlds, a path forward through the darkness. The first ray of sunlight touched Arya's skin, and she laughed, a sound like bells, like promise, like hope breaking through after the longest night.